If I wanted to get faster at running right now, there are a few habits I'd absolutely avoid. These are things that held me back for years, and honestly, I still see a lot of runners making the same mistakes today. Whether you're training for a new PB or just want to feel stronger and smoother on your runs, avoiding these 6 habits will make a huge difference to your speed and consistency. And I think the key for myself and for you guys is to run consistently, happy, healthy, and just have a good time whilst chasing PBs or just running for your health. And so that means being able to stack up week after week, month after month, and year after year. So what I'm about to share with you are things that have really held me back, really stopped me in my tracks, and really halted progress as I was trying to move forward. Let's get straight into it. Number 1, thinking that speed workouts are actually what make you faster. So this is something that I used to have in my head for many years, and I used to thrash my workouts really hard. I never used to have any caution with them. I just used to push as hard as I could go until my hands were on my knees or I was lying on the ground, and it was a very unpleasant experience. And then over time, of course, I learned, I read, I listened, I watched, I did everything I could as I started to try and develop more running knowledge, and I realistically understood that running is an aerobic event. Unless you're doing really fast track stuff, the majority of us need aerobic development, and that doesn't just come from these speed workouts. I learned that running was a package deal, and that you needed the easy runs, the moderate runs, you needed the tempo runs, the threshold runs, those hill workouts, those strides, and those speed workouts. You needed everything in the perfect blend, whereas back in the day I used to think that I just used to need to run really fast to make sure that when I came to race day I could race really fast. Now of course this was a recipe for disaster with injury. I was always maybe having minor strains or just pulling something slightly, and I'd be able to run, but it wasn't fun, it wasn't pleasant, it was a bit painful, and I would run through things, and it was just a very stagnant period of time during my running. When I actually realised that it wasn't these speed workouts that were making me fast, and it was actually all the aerobic work which was helping my engine grow, and then adding the speed on the top was the icing on the cake, that's when I started to make real progress. I still see it all the time, people picking workouts off social media, people picking really fast workouts, bragging about them, and then realising that actually on race day they fall well short of where they wanted to, and that's just because they haven't got that aerobic development. They need to be able to hold that sort of pace that they're doing in their workouts. So remember, these speed workouts are great fun, but they're not the exact thing that makes you run faster. Number 2, judging fitness over one training block rather than over a longer period of time. So again, about 3 or 4 years ago, I massively changed my mindset after a few failed races that didn't quite go to plan, and I started trying to look at things over a 365-day period rather than a 6, 8, 12, 16-week training block. What can often happen for a lot of us, and I'm sure this will resonate with so many of you out there, is we could have an immaculate training block, or maybe 1 or 2 runs aren't quite right, but for the most part, we've had an elite training block. We get to race day, race doesn't quite come off how we want it to. Whether that's our fault or whether it's weather or external conditions, it doesn't matter. We walk away feeling disappointed. We then feel quite dejected, and then we don't quite have that spark for running that we used to. It can then sometimes take a while for that motivation to come back. We sit in a bit of a slump for a while, and then we try and get back into things, but because we've been hanging around in that down in the dumps type of feeling, it takes a while for it to get going again. Fitness doesn't feel like where it was, and then it feels like a massive uphill battle to try and get back to where we were in that training block. Massive mindset shift needs to happen for everyone that thinks like this. You've got to remember, a race is just one run in your year, and yes, it's frustrating when it doesn't pull off. Yes, it's really annoying that you don't have that new personal best for you to shout about or for you to feel grateful for because you've worked really hard for it. But you've got to remember all of those hundreds of hours that you've put into training, all those great training runs you've had. A race doesn't define you, it's just one part of the puzzle. Over a 365-day period, you're looking to get from one point to the next just generally fitter than you were before. As much as we'd like it to be, it's never always going to be a linear progression, and what in turn you can often find with that mindset is you don't feel quite so in a funk after you've had a bad race. You'll be frustrated for a bit, you'll be annoyed, you might overanalyze it for a little bit, but you can pick yourself back up and go again because actually your mindset's changed to the appreciation that you're in a fitter place than when you started that block, and you're going to be in a fitter place when you finish the next block, and so on and so forth. It's a completely different mindset, and it stops you falling into that trap. Couple of maybe controversial ones now. Point number 3, static stretching before you go running. So this is something that I used to do all the time, and again, again, I just had a few near misses where things started to tighten up as I was static stretching. And this is because I came from a football background. And I'm going to be honest with you, we weren't a particularly great football team, and our warm-up consisted of barely any jogging and then a lot of static stretching before we then got into our football matches. I took that mindset into running, and I know a lot of people still do a lot of static stretching before your runs. Now, some people still do that, and that's absolutely fine. It's a debate that can be had. It's something that never worked for me. I realized that very quickly. As I said, after a few occasions when I would be static stretching, things would start to tighten up, and I realized that I was overstraining myself before I even got out the door. My muscles weren't warmed up enough to handle what I was doing, and it was a disaster. So I flipped things around, learned a little bit more, read a little bit more, listened a bit more about dynamic warm-ups, and that's when I introduced that, and then I saved the static stretching for after my runs. I've always found static stretching after a run to be beneficial. Your muscles are well warmed up. You can just lightly stretch things out. I don't do anything heavy, but I do find that it does really help. I'll often do a walk after my run as well. That often really helps too. But ultimately, I've ditched it before a run. I know a lot of people still do it, and I know a lot of people still have trouble with it. I'd definitely love to hear your thoughts of this one in the comments. Number 4, running workouts fasted. This is something that I used to do all the time. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Again, this is a bit of a debatable subject, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments on this one. I jumped on a chat this week with James Copeland, otherwise known as Sir Pock, and Jimmy Runs, who has a great YouTube channel. We actually talked about this in our podcast style episode that's going to be airing on Jimmy's channel. We talked about fueling in general and how important it was, not just the Norwegian singles approach that a lot of us have adopted at the moment, but we did dive into fueling a fair bit on that. So stay tuned for that. Head over to Jimmy's channel after this video, hit subscribe. You'll see a great conversation that the three of us have had very, very soon. On this subject, I used to find I really struggled when I get up really early for my runs and go out and do workouts. Not forcing any food down me, it was a real mistake. I'd often start those workouts really bad. I would push too hard to try and get up to pace too quickly, overstrain, overstride, and again, more often than not, I'd find myself in a world of trouble very early on. There's been enough science recently to show how much fueling your workouts before, during, and after massively helps recovery and performance, and to get the most out of yourself for benefits. And I attribute a lot of my recent improvements over the last couple of years to fueling much better. This is something I did for way too long. Full respect for the people that get up super early like I used to and get out the door without food. Sometimes it's unavoidable and sometimes it's really hard to get food down, but even if you can take a couple of gels out there, it really could start to make all the difference. I used to really struggle. Now I'm in a fortunate situation where I have time to fuel in the morning and get out and do my runs whilst taking gels on those workouts in particular. Doing easy runs fasted is a completely different ball game. I'll sometimes do that and that's not a problem. I don't think you're stressing the system enough to worry too much, and if you've had a good dinner the night before, it tends to be absolutely fine. But when you're really working your system with a workout and you're really engaging everything, it can really be detrimental to your recovery and your performance. Number 5, skipping your easy or recovery days. Just remember, you don't get fitter from training, you get fitter from recovering from training. Again, back in my early days, I used to really prioritize all the speed workouts, and if I didn't quite fancy a run, it would always be the easy runs that I dropped. And again, I see this all the time. I see comments from people saying, I didn't have time for some of my runs this week, so I dropped my easy run. Again, just like going back to point 1, reminding myself and you guys, it's not the speed workouts that makes you faster, it is the full package. If you are too top heavy on that speed, it's like building a house on stilts. There's going to be nothing in the foundation, there'll be nothing to absorb all the work that you're doing up here, and your house will collapse. This one really frustrates me as well because I sometimes don't understand my mindset when I used to do it, and now obviously when social media is more prevalent. It certainly wasn't back when I was doing it, so it wasn't something that I was maybe posting about or shouting about. It's just a choice that I was making. But I feel like nowadays people are doing the speed workouts in a choice to shout about it on social media because it looks fantastic, and full respect, I do understand why some people might do that, but ultimately the proof is in the pudding when you get to race day. These speed workouts, as I said earlier, are fantastic, but neglecting those easy days is only going to end in one result. And finally, number 6, chasing mileage and not quality. There is a balance to be found, and in a world right now in particular where high mileage is quite popular, and full credit to Jake Barraclough, Ran to Japan, he is really paving the way for some great high mileage and getting some fantastic results. workouts and running some insane races on untapered legs and 250, 280k weeks. It's absolutely fantastic. But when you get stuff like that on social media, it's very easy for people to copy it, get excited about it. And I see a lot of people at the moment chasing those higher numbers. What people don't understand is Jake has taken his time to get to this point, and he's also got the quality in there. It's not just the mileage he's chasing. A lot of people are just throwing all the mileage they can at themselves, not balancing it correctly to get that perfect blend of training. Don't get me wrong, if you're just doing full easy mileage and maybe a bit of steady work and logging some ridiculous numbers, you are going to become very aerobically strong, but you're not going to be able to race the way you want to, and you're certainly not going to have that speed that you want to. It's about increasing things gently, but also keeping that perfect blend where you are getting the easy and steady work in, you are getting the tempo and threshold work in, you're still keeping that speed development in where you're doing speed work, hills or strides all through the year, so in some way, shape or form. You might not be in a speed block, so you keep the strides in and maybe some hill sprints, or if you are in a speed block, then you're going to be doing the speed workouts. And of course, everything combined together is what makes the complete runner. Just take baby steps as you go. Stop chasing the numbers. Yes, it looks fantastic. Yes, it might make you look like a hero, but it's temporary and it certainly won't last. So there we go. Those are the 6 running habits that I'd avoid if I wanted to get faster. Probably some common sense ones in there, maybe some controversial ones, and maybe some that might spark a bit of debate. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. What are the running habits that you see that destroys people's running careers, people's running consistency? It'd be great to hear if you've been through anything that you've now ditched and you've found that you've come out the other side feeling a lot stronger. It'd be brilliant to hear that in the comments below. And of course, any other feedback would be great to hear as well. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, guys, then I'll make sure I leave a link to a couple of videos on screen. This is a video where I talk about the 6 things that all runners have got to do this winter to make sure they go into spring next year feeling supercharged and ready to smash their PBs. This will be another useful one for you, and hopefully I'll see you guys over on one of those.